A single dad had saved every penny for months to give his son one special birthday dinner. The boy opened the menu excitedly, then froze and whispered, "Daddy, they have no food." At the counter, a tired mom and her little girl were splitting just a few dry crackers, their eyes starving for every hot plate that passed by. The boy's voice trembled as he asked, "Can we give them our birthday dinner?" Dad swallowed hard and nodded. Immediately, the 7-year-old walked over and invited the two strangers, had no idea the woman they helped was a billionaire's daughter. What came next would alter all their lives forever. Before we continue, tell us what time it is and where you're watching from. Subscribe and hype because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The diner wasn't fancy, just worn wooden booths, cracked vinyl seats and fluorescent lights that hummed overhead. The smell of burgers and coffee filled the air. It was the kind of place where working folks came for honest food at honest prices. James Carter sat across from his son in a corner booth, watching the boy's eyes light up as he studied the plastic menu like it held all the treasures in the world. 7-year-old Tyler had been talking about this moment for months. "Dad, they really have chocolate milkshakes?" Tyler asked, his voice barely containing his excitement. James smiled, even though his wallet felt light in his back pocket. "They sure do, champ. It's your birthday. You can get whatever you want." Tyler's grin stretched from ear to ear. He wore his best clothes, a button-up shirt that was getting a little small in the sleeves and pants his grandmother had pressed carefully that morning. His hair was freshly cut, neat lines sharp against his brown skin. "I've been dreaming about eating in a restaurant forever, Dad. Thank you so much." James felt his throat tighten. His son's happiness over something so simple reminded him how much they'd been struggling. Since losing his job at the warehouse 8 months ago, every penny counted. He'd picked up day labor when he could, but it wasn't steady. Wasn't reliable. He'd been putting aside $5 here, $10 there, saving for this one special day. "You deserve it, son. You've been so patient, so helpful with your grandmother. You're a good kid." The waitress came over, an older woman with kind eyes and tired feet. "What can I get you boys?" Tyler looked at his father, seeking permission. James nodded. "Can I have a cheeseburger with fries, and a chocolate milkshake?" "You sure can, sweetheart. And for you, sir?" "Just coffee for me, thank you." Tyler's smile faltered slightly. "Dad, aren't you gonna eat?" "I had a big lunch, buddy. I'm still full, you go ahead." It was a lie, but a necessary one. James had eaten a bowl of cereal that morning, and nothing since. The money he'd saved was enough for Tyler's meal and maybe his own coffee. That was it. But his son's birthday came once a year, and after everything the boy had been through, moving from their apartment to his grandmother's house, changing schools, wearing hand-me-downs, he deserved this moment. Tyler seemed to accept the explanation, his attention returning to the excitement of the evening. "This is the best birthday ever, Dad." James reached across the table and squeezed his son's hand. "I'm glad, champ. I really am." The bell above the door chimed. James glanced up out of habit, a remnant from his years working security. A woman walked in, and something about her made him look twice. She was white, probably in her late 20s, with light brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She held the hand of a little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, with blonde curls and bright, curious eyes. The woman looked around the diner with an expression James couldn't quite read. Not disgust, not judgment, but something like exhaustion mixed with determination. She walked to the counter with her daughter. "Table for 2, the hostess asked. The woman hesitated, glancing at her daughter, then back at the dining area. "Actually, just some water, please. And do you have any crackers?" The hostess nodded sympathetically. "Water's free, honey. Let me get you some crackers too." She poured 2 glasses of water and brought over a small basket with crackers. The little girl looked up at her mother with big eyes. "Mama, I'm hungry." The woman's face tightened with something that looked like pain. "I know, sweetie. Just eat these crackers slowly, okay? We'll have something better when we get home." But the little girl's eyes drifted to the tables where people were eating, plates of hot food steaming. Her small hand gripped her mother's tighter, and her bottom lip trembled slightly. Tyler had noticed them too. His small hands stopped fidgeting with the menu, and he stared at the little girl in the corner, eyes big, tired, and fixed on plates she couldn't order. "Dad," Tyler whispered, leaning closer, "they're hungry." James followed his son's gaze. He felt something pinch in his chest, because he recognized that look far too well. For a moment, James rubbed the back of his neck. Tyler, we don't know their situation. Tyler didn't look away. It's my birthday dinner. We have food coming. Can't we share? James exhaled slowly. This boy, his boy, always saw what others tried to hide. He looked down at Tyler, eyes softening. If that's what your heart wants, he said gently, then do what you think is right, son. And Tyler nodded, without hesitation. The boy walked over to the counter where the woman and her daughter stood. Hi, Tyler said, his voice polite but confident. My name's Tyler. It's my birthday today. The little girl turned to look at him, her eyes widening slightly. The woman looked startled, her guard immediately up. Oh well, happy birthday, the woman said, managing a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. Thank you, ma'am. Tyler glanced at the little girl. We have a whole birthday dinner ordered, but there's more than enough food. Would you like to come eat with us, please? The woman's face flushed. Oh no, sweetheart, that's very kind, but we couldn't. But it's my birthday, Tyler insisted with the simple logic of childhood, and sharing makes it more special. Right, Dad? James had walked up behind his son. He met the woman's eyes and saw something there that made his chest ache. Pride fighting with desperation. Embarrassment mixing with hope, the fierce determination of a mother trying to protect her child's dignity while her own was crumbling. He'd worn that expression himself more times than he could count. He's right, James said gently. We'd be honored if you'd join us, really. No strings, no questions, just dinner. The woman's eyes started to water. She looked down at her daughter, who was staring at Tyler with something like wonder, then back at James, searching his face for the catch, the angle, the price. Mama, can we? The little girl whispered, her voice small and hopeful. The woman bit her lip. James could see the war happening inside her. Years of self-reliance fighting against immediate need, pride battling with love for her child. Finally, she nodded slowly, her voice barely audible. Thank you. That's very kind. I'm Nina, and this is Lily. I'm Tyler, and this is my dad, James. Nice to meet you both. They walked back to the booth together. Lily scooted in beside Tyler, and Nina sat next to James, her hands folded tightly in her lap, her posture rigid. She looked uncomfortable but also relieved, as if something heavy had been set down, even temporarily. The waitress came back over, surprised to see the expanded party. James caught her eye. Can we get another burger and fries, and another milkshake, chocolate? Also, I'll take a burger too, please. He just spent money he didn't have. Money he'd need for next week's groceries. Money that meant he'd be eating cereal for days. But looking at that little girl's face, at his son's proud smile, at the mother fighting tears of gratitude, he knew it was the right thing to do. Some things mattered more than financial security. Coming right up, the waitress said with a knowing smile, her eyes soft with understanding. When she left, Nina finally spoke, her voice thick with emotion. You have no idea what this means. Thank you. James shook his head. No thanks needed, it's just dinner. But they both knew it was more than that. It was dignity, it was kindness, it was seeing someone else's hunger and choosing to do something about it, even when you could barely afford to feed yourself. Tyler and Lily were already chattering away like old friends, and James and Nina sat in a comfortable silence, both understanding without words that something important was happening here. The food arrived, and James watched Lily's face transform when the waitress set the plate in front of her. The little girl's eyes went wide, her mouth falling open slightly. She looked up at her mother, as if asking for permission to believe this was real. Nina nodded, her own eyes glistening. Go ahead, sweetheart, eat. Lily picked up a French fry with both small hands, as if it were something precious, and took a careful bite. Then her face lit up with pure joy, and she began eating with the careful enthusiasm of a hungry child who'd been taught manners but couldn't quite hide her need. Tyler was already halfway through his burger, but he kept glancing at Lily to make sure she was enjoying her food. It's good, right? Lily nodded vigorously, her mouth full, her eyes bright with happiness. James bit into his own burger, the taste almost overwhelming after eating so little that day. Across from him, Nina was eating slowly, her movements controlled, but he could see the relief in every bite, the way her shoulders gradually relaxed. How old are you, Lily? Tyler asked between bites. 5.5, Lily answered seriously, holding up 5 fingers and then showing a pinching gesture for half. I'm 7 now, just turned 7 today. Happy birthday. I wish I had a present for you. Tyler shook his head vigorously. You being here is a present. I never had a birthday dinner with a new friend before. James felt his chest tighten with pride. Somehow, despite everything, despite the instability, the moves, the stretches of pretending things were fine. Tyler had still grown into someone who noticed others, someone who cared. That was worth more than anything James could ever lose or earn. Nina glanced at James, a quiet question flickering behind her eyes, not prying, not judging, just trying to understand the kind of people who would do something like this. James offered a small, easy smile, cutting the question off before it formed. Kids lead the way sometimes, he said simply. We just follow. Understanding settled into her expression. Not the heavy kind, not pity, just recognition. A shared language between people doing their best with what they had. That's a good way to put it, she murmured. James shrugged lightly. My mama always said you never go wrong being kind. Nina's smile warmed. She sounds like a smart woman. She is, James answered. He left it at that. The conversation eased into a comfortable rhythm, nothing forced. The kids carried most of it anyway. Lily excitedly explaining her love for the color purple, and how she was definitely going to be an artist, and Tyler launching into his grand plan to become an engineer, complete with hand gestures and sound effects that made Lily giggle. James listened, letting their laughter fill the space, grateful the evening had settled into something gentle. When the check came, James took it quickly, not looking at the total until he had to. He pulled out the cash he had left, counting it carefully. He had just enough for the food, but would be a few dollars short on the tip he wanted to leave. The waitress noticed his hesitation. She leaned in and lowered her voice, warm and understanding. Don't you worry about the tip, honey. What you did for that mama and her baby, that's tip enough for a lifetime. You folks have a blessed evening. James felt his eyes sting. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your kindness more than you know. He didn't notice Nina watching until he stood up. She'd seen the way he counted the bills. She'd seen the waitress gently wave off the tip, and suddenly everything clicked. The quiet way he'd ordered, the missing meal on his side of the table, the carefulness in how he spoke to Tyler. A flush rose up her neck, not from pity, but from the uncomfortable realization that the man who had helped her wasn't in a much better place himself. She stepped closer, touching James's arm lightly, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't realize, she said. You didn't have to do any of this, not when things are tight. I don't know how to thank you. James shook his head. You already did. You let us share a meal with you. But Nina wasn't satisfied with that. Her eyes softened, full of something deeper than gratitude. Please, could I have your number? I don't know when, but when I'm back on my feet, I want to repay you. I need to. James hesitated, uncomfortable with the idea, but saw the earnestness, almost desperation in her expression. She needed to do this for herself as much as for him, so he nodded and gave it to her. The exchange felt a little awkward, a little uncertain, but right. Outside the diner, they said their goodbyes. Lily hugged Tyler tightly, and he hugged her back without any of the self-consciousness boys were supposed to have. Bye, Tyler. Thank you for sharing your birthday. Bye, Lily. Maybe we can play sometime. Lily looked up at her mother hopefully. Nina managed a tired but genuine smile. Maybe, we'll see. James and Tyler walked to the bus stop 3 blocks away. The evening air was warm, typical for a Texas September night. Tyler held his father's hand, swinging their arms happily. Dad, that was the best birthday ever. I'm glad, son. Did you see how happy Lily was when she got her food? She must have been really hungry. I did see that. I'm glad we shared. That's what you're supposed to do, right? When you have something and someone else doesn't, you share. James stopped walking and knelt down to his son's level under the soft glow of a streetlight. He placed both hands on Tyler's shoulders. You listen to me, son. What you did tonight, inviting them to sit with us, that took courage and kindness. Real kindness, the kind that cost you something. I'm proud of you, so proud I could burst. Tyler beamed, his whole face lighting up. I learned it from you, Dad, and Grandma. You guys always help people. James laughed under his breath. You're gonna be a better man than me, you know that. I'm gonna be just like you, Dad. James pulled his son into a tight hug under the streetlight, not caring who saw. They walked to the bus stop, waiting nearly 30 minutes for the late-night route, but neither of them minded. Tyler leaned against him, sleepy and satisfied. On the ride home, Tyler pressed his cheek to the window, watching Dallas slide past in soft streaks of color. James sat beside him, replaying the evening in quiet gratitude, the warmth of the diner, the laughter of the kids, the unexpected crossing of paths that made the world feel a little less heavy. He didn't notice Nina still sitting in the diner behind them, Lily asleep on her shoulder, both of them full and warm for the first time in days. He didn't see her watching the two of them walk toward the bus stop, a small frown of concern settling between her brows. He didn't see any of it. All he knew was that tonight, his son had been happy, and for now that was enough. 3 weeks after Tyler's birthday dinner, the sky opened up over Dallas. Not the usual Texas afternoon thunderstorm that came and went, but a relentless rain that seemed determined to wash away everything that wasn't tied down. James was walking back from another failed job interview, his borrowed umbrella doing little to keep him dry, when he saw them. At first he wasn't sure it was them. The figures were hunched against the rain, pulling 2 battered suitcases along the sidewalk. One tall, one small, but then the smaller figure stumbled, and the taller one stopped to help her up with a movement that was achingly gentle, and James knew. Nina and Lily. He stopped in his tracks, rain soaking through his jacket. They were 3 blocks from his mother's house, moving slowly, Lily's small legs struggling to keep up. Nina was trying to shield her daughter with her body, but they were both drenched, shivering. James's feet moved before his brain fully processed what he was doing. He ran across the street, dodging puddles. Nina, she turned, and he saw her face, exhausted, defeated, but trying desperately to hide it, especially from Lily. When she recognized James, something crumbled in her expression, just for a second, before she rebuilt the wall. James, hi. Her voice was steady, but her lips were pale from cold. Lily looked up at him with those big eyes, now red from crying or cold or both. Mr. James, she said, her small voice shaking. What happened? Where are you going? Nina straightened her spine, lifting her chin. We're fine, just heading to we have a place lined up. It was a lie, and they both knew it. James looked at the suitcases, at Lily's trembling, at the determination in Nina's eyes that was barely holding back desperation. Nina, it's pouring rain. You're both soaked. Lily's shaking. We're fine, Nina repeated, but her voice cracked on the last word. Mama, I'm so cold, Lily whispered, tugging on her mother's sleeve. Can we stop, please? My feet hurt. That's what broke her. Not James's questions, not her own exhaustion, but her daughter's plea. Nina's eyes, filled with tears that mixed with the rain on her face. I got evicted, she said finally, the words coming out like they'd been forced. I lost my waitressing job 3 weeks ago, couldn't make rent for the 2nd month. The landlord gave us until this morning. I thought I could find somewhere, but everywhere wants first and last month plus deposit, and I don't have it. I don't have anything. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. We've been sleeping in my car for the past 3 nights. It broke down this morning. Towed away because I couldn't pay the parking tickets. I don't know where we're going. James didn't hesitate. Come with me. My mom's house is 3 blocks from here. You can dry off, warm up, figure things out. No. Nina shook her head firmly. No, we can't. You already did enough. We're not your responsibility. I'm not asking you to be my responsibility. I'm asking you to come get dry and warm. That's all. No strings. James, Mama, please, Lily interrupted, her small voice breaking. I'm so cold, and my feet hurt so bad. Nina looked down at her daughter, and James saw the exact moment she gave up. Not on herself, but on pride. On the idea that she could do this completely alone. Her shoulders sagged, and she closed her eyes. Okay, she whispered, okay, just for a little while, to dry off. That's all I'm asking. James took one of the suitcases, Nina took the other, and Lily walked between them, occasionally stumbling on legs that were exhausted from walking. Who knows how far? They didn't talk during the 3 blocks. There was nothing to say that the rain wasn't already saying for them. James's mother's house was small but warm, a 2-bedroom place in an older neighborhood where people still looked out for each other. He unlocked the door and ushered them inside, calling out, Mama, we've got company. Dorothy Carter came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She was 63, with gray hair pulled back in a bun, and eyes that saw everything. She took one look at the soaked woman and child, and went into action without a single question. Lord have mercy, you're soaked through. Come on, baby girl, she said to Lily, already leading her toward the bathroom. Let's get you in a warm shower, and you too, honey, she said to Nina. You're shaking like a leaf. We don't want to intrude. Nina started, but Dorothy waved her off. Hush now, we'll talk after you're warm and dry. James, get some towels, and see if you got any of those old clothes that might fit her. An hour later, Nina and Lily sat in Dorothy's living room, warm and dry in borrowed clothes. Dorothy had made hot tea and grilled cheese sandwiches, and Lily was curled up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, finally stopped shivering. James sat in the armchair, while Nina perched on the edge of the couch, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea, her eyes fixed on the floor. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for stopping, for bringing us here, for not judging." "Nothing to judge," Dorothy said matter-of-factly. "We've all been where you are, honey, some of us more than once." Nina looked up, surprised. Dorothy nodded. "After my husband passed, I had 3 kids to feed and no job. Lost our apartment, had to move in with my sister for a year, had to swallow my pride and accept food stamps, accept help from the church, accept that I couldn't do it alone." She looked at Nina with kind but knowing eyes. "Pride's a funny thing. It keeps you going when things are hard, but sometimes it keeps you going in the wrong direction." Nina's eyes filled with tears. I thought I could make it work. I thought if I worked hard enough, if I was strong enough, I could give Lily a stable life. But every time I get a little ahead, something happens. The car breaks down, or I lose a job because I have to stay home with her when she's sick, or the rent goes up. I'm doing everything right, and it's still not enough. That's because the system's not built for people like us," James said quietly. "It's built to keep us struggling, one emergency away from disaster, always. I left my family to get away from being controlled, from being dependent, and now look at me, homeless with my daughter, accepting help from people I barely know." She laughed bitterly. "Maybe they were right, maybe I can't make it on my own." "Stop," Dorothy said firmly. "You've been making it on your own for how long? 8 months. 8 months. Working, providing for your child, keeping her safe and fed and loved. That's not failing, honey. That's surviving against a system that's working against you. There's no shame in hitting a rough patch. The shame would be in not accepting help when it's offered." Lily stirred on the couch, her eyes opening. "Mama, are we going to sleep here tonight?" Nina looked at Dorothy, then at James, uncertainty written all over her face. Dorothy answered before Nina could speak. "Yes, baby. You and your mama are sleeping in the guest room tonight. Maybe a few nights, until your mama figures things out. Is that okay with you?" Lily nodded, her eyes already closing again. "Okay, Miss Dorothy, thank you." After Lily fell asleep, James helped Nina carry their suitcases to the guest room. It was small, just a double bed and a dresser, but it was clean and warm and safe. "I'll pay you back," Nina said as James set down the last suitcase. "I don't know how or when, but I will. I don't want you to pay me back. This isn't a loan or a transaction. It's just people helping people." "But why? You don't really know me. We had dinner once. Why would you do this?" James was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "You remember what I said that night, about my mama teaching me you never know what someone else is carrying?" Nina nodded. "Well, now I know what you're carrying, and I remember what it felt like to carry it myself. To feel like you're drowning, and nobody sees, nobody cares. To feel like you're one bad day away from losing everything." He looked at her directly. "I can't fix everything for you. I can't solve all your problems, but I can give you a safe place to sleep and food to eat while you figure out your next move. That's not charity, that's just being human." Nina's eyes filled with tears again, but this time she didn't try to hide them. "I don't even know what to say." "You don't have to say anything, just rest. Tomorrow we'll figure out next steps. But tonight you and Lily are safe and warm. Let that be enough for now." After James left, Nina sat on the edge of the bed, looking at Lily sleeping peacefully for the first time in days. She thought about her family's house, the estate with 6 bedrooms and staff who would bring anything she wanted. She thought about the life she'd walked away from, the security she'd given up. And then she thought about James and his mother who had almost nothing but still found a way to give. She thought about Tyler, inviting strangers to share his birthday dinner. She thought about Dorothy, opening her home without a single question. This was what she'd been looking for when she left her family. Not wealth or comfort or security, but humanity. Real connection. People who saw other people, not assets or liabilities or opportunities. For the first time in 8 months Nina felt something she'd almost forgotten. Hope, not that everything would be easy or that problems would magically solve themselves. But hope that she wasn't alone, that people still cared, that kindness still existed in the world. She lay down next to Lily, pulling her daughter close, and for the first time in weeks she slept without nightmares. Downstairs, James sat with his mother at the kitchen table, both of them drinking tea in the quiet house. "You did good, baby," Dorothy said. Bringing them here, I couldn't just leave them out there in the rain, Mama. No, you couldn't, because I raised you right. She reached over and patted his hand. But you know this is going to be complicated, right? We don't know her whole story, don't know what she's running from or what problems might come with her. I know, but Mama, you should have seen her face when Tyler invited them to dinner. She looked like she couldn't believe someone would be kind without wanting something. And tonight standing there in the rain trying so hard to stay strong for her little girl. He shook his head. I had to help, had to. I know you did. Just be careful, that's all I'm saying. Guard your heart and Tyler's. We're barely making it ourselves, can't save everyone. I'm not trying to save everyone, just trying to help two people who need it right now. Dorothy smiled. That's my boy. Your daddy would be proud. That night 4 people slept under Dorothy Carter's roof. 2 who'd been there before, and 2 who'd been strangers 3 weeks ago but were already becoming something more. Not family yet, but not strangers anymore either. Something in between. Something new, something that would change all of their lives in ways none of them could imagine yet. Outside the rain finally stopped, and inside in the warm safe darkness, hope began to take root and grow. The first morning at Dorothy's house, Nina woke to the smell of bacon and coffee. For a moment disoriented she couldn't remember where she was. Then Lily stirred beside her and it all came rushing back. The eviction, the rain, James finding them on the street. She got up quietly, not wanting to wake Lily, and followed the sounds to the kitchen. Dorothy was at the stove, and James sat at the small table with Tyler, both of them eating breakfast. They looked up when she entered. Good morning, Dorothy said warmly. Coffee, yes please. And thank you for everything. Sit down, honey, you want some eggs? I made plenty. Nina hesitated, then sat. Just coffee is fine, you need to eat, Dorothy said. Already putting eggs and bacon on a plate. Can't figure out your next move on an empty stomach. Tyler looked up from his cereal. Is Lily still sleeping? She is. Yesterday was hard on her. When she wakes up can we play? I have some toys she might like. Nina felt her throat tighten. That's sweet of you, Tyler. After breakfast, James pulled Nina aside. I need to head out for a job interview. But I was thinking, while I'm gone, maybe you and my mama could work on your resume. She's good at that stuff. Helped me fix mine when I was looking. You have a job interview. That's wonderful. Small company, probably won't lead to anything, but got to try. He paused. Look, I know you're probably thinking about what comes next. Where you'll go, how you'll manage. Don't think about that today. Just rest, spend time with Lily, let my mama fuss over you both. Tomorrow's soon enough to make plans. He was giving her permission to not have all the answers immediately. Nina hadn't realized how much she needed that until he said it. Over the next week, a routine developed. James went out each day to look for work or do day labor jobs when he could find them. Dorothy watched both children while Nina made calls, sent out applications, tried to find both a job and affordable housing. It was hard. Everything required an address she didn't have, money for deposits she couldn't afford, references from jobs she'd lost through no fault of her own. Every door seemed to close in her face, but in the evenings something unexpected happened. The two families ate dinner together, talked, laughed. Tyler and Lily became inseparable, playing elaborate imaginary games that filled the small house with noise and joy. James and Nina found themselves having long conversations after the children went to bed, talking about everything and nothing. On the 8th night, sitting on Dorothy's back porch while the kids played inside, Nina found herself opening up in a way she hadn't with anyone in years. Can I tell you something? She asked, her voice quiet. Of course. Nina took a deep breath. My family has money. A lot of it. My father is Graham Whitfield. James's eyebrows rose. Everyone in Texas knew that name. Oil, real estate, banking. The Whitfield empire touched half the businesses in the state. The Graham Whitfield. Yes, Nina stared out at the darkening sky. I'm the daughter of one of the richest men in Texas, and 3 weeks ago I was homeless, sleeping in my car with my daughter. What happened? So she told him. About growing up with everything except freedom. About her father's control over every aspect of her life, from the clothes she wore to the friends she had to the man she married. About the divorce when that man turned out to be cruel behind closed doors. About her father's reaction, his insistence that she'd made a mistake, that she needed to come home where he could fix everything, meaning control everything again. He said it was for my own good, that I couldn't be trusted to make decisions for Lily and myself without guidance. When I said I was leaving, taking Lily and building our own life, he told me I'd fail within a month. Said I'd come crawling back, begging him to take care of us. Her voice hardened, so I left, took Lily, took nothing else from that world and walked away from all of it. 8 months ago, I was going to prove him wrong. Prove I could make it on my own, that I didn't need his money or his control or his name. She laughed bitterly, and look where that got me. Evicted, jobless, taking charity from people I barely know. Maybe he was right after all. No, James said firmly. He wasn't right. Nina looked at him, surprised by the strength in his voice. You walked away from a life of comfort to give your daughter something more important than money. You worked hard, you provided for her, you kept her safe and loved for 8 months with no help from anyone. You hit a rough patch because the system's designed to keep people like us down. That's not failure. That's courage. It doesn't feel like courage, it feels like I'm drowning. I know that feeling. I've been drowning for 8 months, but you know what I've learned. He turned to face her fully. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is accept help. Sometimes strength isn't about doing it all alone. It's about knowing when to let people in. Nina was quiet for a long moment. You're different from the men in my father's world. They would see me as weak right now, someone to be managed or controlled or pitied. I see you as someone who's fighting, same as me. Same as millions of people trying to keep their heads above water in a system that's working against us. You don't see me as a rich girl playing at being poor. No, I see you as a mother protecting her child. Everything else is just details. Something shifted in Nina's expression. A wall coming down, just a little. Can I tell you something I haven't told anyone? Of course, I'm scared, terrified actually. Not of being poor, that part I can handle. But of being wrong, of having left my father's house for the wrong reasons, of putting Lily through all this just because I was too proud or too stubborn to live by his rules. Her voice cracked. What if I'm making her life worse? What if she'd be better off in that big house with all the security and opportunities I walked away from? What was it like for you growing up in that house? Nina thought about it. Lonely, controlled, like I was a doll being positioned for display. I had everything except freedom to choose my own path, to make my own mistakes, to be my own person. Is that what you want for Lily? No, never. Then you're not wrong. You're giving her something more valuable than money. You're teaching her that people matter more than things. That kindness exists outside of transaction, that you can fall down and still get back up. James paused. She's watching you fight for her, for both of you. That's a gift my mama gave me when my dad passed. The gift of seeing real strength. Tyler's getting the same gift now. Nina wiped at her eyes. How do you always know what to say? I don't think I do. I think you already know the truth. You just need someone to reflect it back sometimes. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the children's laughter from inside the house. Can I give you some advice? James asked after a while. Please, I think maybe the problem isn't that you left your father. I think it's that you haven't told him why. Really told him, made him listen. You ran away but you never stood your ground and demanded to be heard. He wouldn't listen. He never listens. Maybe not, but you'd know you tried. You'd know you said your piece, stood up for yourself, demanded to be seen as an adult who can make her own choices. He looked at her. Sometimes parents control because they're scared of losing us. Not because they don't love us, but because they love us so much they can't see. We have to make our own mistakes to grow. My father's not like that. He's a businessman. Everything's about control and winning. Is he? Or is that just what he shows the world? James shrugged. I don't know the man. Maybe you're right, but Lily asked Dorothy about her grandfather yesterday. Asked if her grandfather even remembered her name. Maybe it's time to find out what he really thinks, what he really wants. That night, lying in bed next to Lily, Nina thought about what James had said. She thought about her father, about the last conversation they'd had where he told her she'd never make it, she'd come crawling back within a month. She thought about Lily's question. Does grandfather remember my name? For 8 months Nina had been running, proving a point, making a statement, but she hadn't actually resolved anything. She just created a standoff that couldn't last forever, that was hurting Lily by depriving her of her grandparents. Maybe it was time to stop running and start talking. Not to go back, never to go back, but to stand her ground and demand to be heard. To be seen, to be respected as an adult who'd made adult choices. The next morning, after another night of wrestling with the decision, Nina asked James if she could use his phone. She dialed a number she knew by heart, one she'd avoided for 8 months. A woman answered on the second ring. Whitfield residence. Nina's breath caught. That was Helen, the housekeeper who'd been there since Nina was a child. Helen, it's Nina, is my father there? There was a sharp intake of breath. Miss Nina, oh my lord child, where are you? Your mother's been beside herself, we all have. Your father's been wait, let me get him. Don't hang up, please don't hang up. A minute later a man's voice came on the line, controlled but with an edge Nina had never heard before. Nina, Dad, it's me. There was a long pause, then his voice cracking slightly. Where are you? Are you safe? Is Lily safe? We're safe, both of us. That's all you need to know right now. That's not Nina, you've been gone for 8 months. 8 months, your mother cries herself to sleep every night. We've had investigators looking, but you vanished completely. What were you thinking? I was thinking I needed to build my own life. Without your control, I was trying to protect you. No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to make demands or tell me what I should have done. That's exactly why I left. Nina's voice was shaking but firm. I'm calling because I want to see you, to talk. Really talk, not you talking at me while I'm supposed to nod and obey. I want you to listen. If this is about money, it's not about money, it's about respect. It's about you seeing me as a 30-year-old woman who can make her own decisions, not as a child who needs to be managed. Another long pause. Nina could almost hear him recalculating, adjusting his strategy. Finally, when? Tomorrow afternoon. Come alone, I'll send you the address. Nina, I don't think those are the terms. Take them or leave them. She could feel his struggle through the phone, the businessman in him warring with the father. Finally, all right, send me the address. After she hung up, her hands were shaking. James, who'd been pretending not to listen from the other room, came in. You okay? I don't know. I think I just poked the bear. Good, sometimes bears need poking. The next afternoon, a black Mercedes pulled up in front of Dorothy Carter's small house. It looked absurdly out of place in the working-class neighborhood, like a spaceship that had landed in the wrong era. Nina watched from the window as her father got out of the car. Graham Whitfield was 67, silver-haired, dressed in a business suit, despite it being Saturday. Every hair in place, every movement controlled. The picture of wealth and power. She opened the door before he could knock. Dad, Nina, his eyes scanned her borrowed clothes, her hair pulled back simply, taking in every detail. You look poor, she stepped back. Come in. Graham entered the small house, and Nina saw him take it all in. The worn furniture, the modest space, the toys scattered on the floor where Lily and Tyler had been playing before Dorothy took them to the park, giving them privacy. You've been living here for 2 weeks. Before that I had my own apartment, until I couldn't make rent. And before you say anything, yes, I was doing fine on my own until my car broke down and I lost my job. One bad break, and the whole house of cards collapsed. That's what it's like for people without safety nets. Graham's jaw tightened. If you'd come home. No, stop. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Nina stood her ground. You don't get to lecture me about my choices, you get to listen. That's the only reason you're here. Father and daughter stared at each other, a battle of wills between two people who'd inherited the same stubbornness. Finally, Graham nodded stiffly. I'm listening. They sat down in Dorothy's living room, and Nina took a breath, gathering 8 months of thoughts and feelings. I left because I was suffocating. Every decision made for me, every path chosen by you, every relationship evaluated based on what was good for the Whitfield name instead of what made me happy. I felt like I wasn't a person,